Before she was a weapon, she was a girl. Before she shattered walls with her mind, she broke through them with her heart. In the sterile glow of laboratory lights, where scientists measured power in volts and fear, she discovered something that could not be contained in any test tube or experiment: the raw, unquantifiable magic of human connection. For all the needles, the pain, and the numbers tattooed on her wrist, it wasn't science that made her extraordinary. It was love. Chapter 1. The Girl Who Was Never Meant to Feel. Deep beneath the Hawkins National Laboratory, a child was born into silence. 11 was not raised, she was engineered. Her childhood was a series of experiments masquerading as education. Her lullabies, the hum of electric currents, and the echoes of screams behind steel doors. She learned obedience before language, fear before affection. Every gesture was observed, every emotion punished. Dr. Brenner, the man she was made to call Papa, believed love was a distraction, that emotion diluted power. He told her that caring made her weak, that attachment made her vulnerable. He trained her to isolate, to kill, to detach. Yet in those same white rooms, 11 began to feel the one thing that could not be contained in any test tube or experiment: the raw, unquantifiable magic of human connection. For all the needles, the pain, and the numbers tattooed on her wrist, it wasn't science that made her extraordinary. It was love. Chapter 2. The Boys Who Broke the Walls. When 11 first stumbled into the woods, cold and afraid, she met something she had never seen before: kindness. Mike Wheeler's voice, gentle yet uncertain, became her first signal of safety. "You're safe now," he told her, without realizing the magnitude of those words. In that moment, Mike wasn't rescuing a telekinetic weapon, he was rescuing a child. Their friendship was awkward, innocent, and pure. Mike offered her shelter, food, and trust. Lucas and Dustin offered curiosity and laughter. These were small, ordinary things, but to 11, they were miracles. In a world where she had only known control, friendship introduced her to choice. Where Brenner demanded obedience, Mike offered understanding. Love, in its simplest form, was the first power she couldn't explain. And that is where the series draws its first great contrast. Science sought to weaponize her mind, but friendship humanized it. Her connection with the boys didn't just save her, it awakened her. It was through them that she learned words like promise, home, and family. Through them, she began to define herself, not by the number on her wrist, but by the warmth of the people who refused to see her as an experiment. In one unforgettable scene, when Mike reaches for her hand and says, "You're not a monster," we see the universe shift. 11's tears fall not from weakness, but from recognition. She has been seen, not as a subject, but as a soul. Chapter 3. Love as the Unseen Power. The deeper Stranger Things unfolds, the clearer it becomes that 11's telekinesis is not just a product of brain waves and trauma, it is a manifestation of emotion. Her powers are strongest when her heart is fullest. Rage opens her energy, fear fuels it, but love transforms it. When she sacrifices herself to destroy the Demogorgon in Season 1, it's not science that drives her, it's attachment. Her final glance at Mike before disappearing is an act of devotion. When she lifts trains in the woods under Hopper's care, when she closes the gate to the Upside Down in Season 2, when she bleeds from the strain of protecting her friends, every surge of power originates not from calculation, but from compassion. 11's greatest strength is inseparable from her capacity to love. And this is what makes her such a profound feminist symbol. She redefines what power looks like. For so long, female strength in fiction was portrayed as the rejection of emotion, as though to be powerful, a woman must become unfeeling. But 11 proves the opposite. She proves that empathy is not a flaw in the design, it is the design. Her emotions are not barriers to her power, they are her power. The girl who is told not to care becomes the woman who saves the world because she cares. Chapter 4. The father who taught her to feel again. Jim Hopper enters 11's life not as a savior, but as a reflection of her brokenness. A man hollowed by grief and a girl haunted by abandonment, two lost souls circling the ruins of their pain. Their relationship begins with tension, resistance, and silence. Hopper doesn't know how to love without control, and 11 doesn't know how to be loved without fear. But slowly, in their cabin in the woods, they learn. She teaches him patience. He teaches her safety. Through burnt waffles and awkward arguments, they form a bond deeper than blood. Hopper becomes what Brenner never was, a father, not a captor. The beauty of their connection lies in its imperfection. Hopper fails, lies, loses his temper. 11 rebels, runs away, shouts. But through it all, they return to each other. Their relationship is a study in unconditional love, messy, human, and real. And in that love, 11 grows stronger. Not because Hopper teaches her how to fight, but because he teaches her that she doesn't have to fight alone. Science gave her control. Hopper gave her belonging. And it is belonging, not control, that gives her power. Chapter 5. When the heart is taken. There's a certain ache in watching 11 lose the very thing that once saved her. In Stranger Things 3, she begins to taste normalcy, the laughter of teenage love, the thrill of mall lights, the fleeting calm of friendship without monsters. But peace for her is always borrowed time. When the Mind Flayer returns, it doesn't just threaten Hawkins, it threatens her sense of belonging. Every scream, every flicker of chaos is a reminder that the world will never allow her to simply be a girl. And when Hopper is torn from her life, that fragile foundation of love cracks. The scene where 11 reads his unsent letter is one of the most devastatingly beautiful moments in the series. Hopper's words, "Make mistakes, learn from them, and when life hurts you, because it will, remember the hurt. The hurt is good. It means you're out of that cave." For 11, that moment is more than grief. It's revelation. She realizes that love, even when it ends in loss, still gives meaning to pain. She had been taught in the lab that pain was punishment, something to suppress or control. But now she learns that pain can be proof of love's existence, the heartbeat left behind after connection. Her powers may fade temporarily, but her empathy does not. In losing her strength, she becomes stronger in the one way that truly matters. She learns to feel her sorrow without fear. Science made her suppress her humanity. Loss teaches her to embrace it. Chapter 6. When science reclaims its creation. By the time Stranger Things 4 begins, 11 is once again a ghost in the machine, this time not a prisoner by force, but by guilt. Stripped of her powers, mocked by classmates, haunted by trauma, she returns to the lab in a desperate search for what she thinks she's lost. But what she's really seeking isn't power, it's identity. Dr. Brenner greets her with the same cold smile, the same illusion of paternal care. He insists he can help her become whole again. But his definition of wholeness is control. It's the same lie as before, that emotion makes her weak, that strength comes from obedience. Watching her regress into that sterile world feels like watching a phoenix crawl back into its ashes. Yet what Brenner never anticipates is that 11 has changed. She remembers love now, the kind Mike showed her in whispers, the kind Hopper showed her in silence, the kind Max showed her in friendship. Those memories are her resistance. When Brenner tells her she's not ready, that she's too emotional, she doesn't shrink anymore. She meets his gaze and declares, "I'm ready to fight." That's the moment she breaks the cycle, not when she regains her powers, but when she reclaims her right to feel. Her return to strength is not scientific, it's spiritual. Science may rebuild her neural pathways, but it is love that reignites her will. When she later enters Max's mind to save her from Vecna, we see the full circle of her evolution. The girl who was made to destroy is now the one who heals. Love has turned her weapon into a sanctuary. Chapter 7. The Girl Who Became a Lighthouse. Every great myth has a moment where the hero stands at the edge of despair and chooses light. For 11, that moment is not just about saving the world, it's about saving herself. In the eerie stillness of the Upside Down, when shadows close in and hope flickers, she embodies something ancient and universal. The triumph of human connection over manufactured control. She stands not as a science project, but as a living testament to love's endurance. Every friendship she has ever built with Mike, Dustin, Lucas, Max, and Hopper becomes a thread of invisible strength woven into her soul. They are not just her memories, they are her armor. The laboratory tried to make her a weapon of isolation. Instead, she became a weapon of empathy. Her strength is not in the crushing of enemies, but in the saving of souls. When she reaches into Max's dying mind, refusing to let her slip away, it's the culmination of her entire journey. Love not as sentiment, but as defiance. That scene, her body shaking, eyes bleeding, screaming against the void, captures what the series has always whispered, that the power to love without limits is the most dangerous and divine force in existence. It cannot be replicated, measured, or contained, because love, once awakened, transcends science. Chapter 8. The Anatomy of Power. In the sterile world of science, power is data. It is quantifiable, measurable, repeatable. But 11's power has never obeyed those laws. It is something wild, fluid, ungovernable. Every time she's hooked to machines, her pulse becomes their riddle. They record the surges of her mind, but they cannot comprehend the source of it, because her power doesn't come from neurons. It comes from meaning, from love remembered, from pain transformed, from friendship reborn in fire. It's easy to miss the poetic symmetry of her story until you see the lab for what it is, a symbol of everything that tries to reduce humanity to equations. The scientists want predictability, the military wants obedience, the system wants silence, and in the midst of that machinery stands a girl who is all noise, all feeling, all rebellion. When she screams, it isn't just effort, it's liberation. The air around her trembles with a truth that no algorithm could ever capture. Love, especially the wounded kind, is what gives us power beyond reason. When she closes her eyes to fight Vecna, what she's really fighting is the ideology that created him, the cold logic that power exists for domination. 11's power exists for connection. She uses it not to conquer, but to protect, not to impose will, but to save hearts. It's this shift from control to compassion that marks her final evolution. Science forged her body, but friendship forged her soul. And that soul becomes the pulse that humbles monsters. In her, we see the intersection of two worlds, the precision of creation and the chaos of feeling, and she refuses to choose between them. 11 doesn't reject science. She redefines its purpose. She proves that intellect without empathy is destruction, and that understanding, in its purest form, must always begin with love. Chapter 9. The Woman She's Becoming. When we imagine the end of Stranger Things, we might think of apocalyptic battles or the final collapse of the Upside Down. But the real ending is quieter. It lives in the moments where 11 begins to understand that her strength was never about saving the world. It was about saving herself from becoming what the world wanted her to be. By season 4's close, she is no longer the frightened experiment hiding behind others' protection. She's a young woman learning that love isn't always a shield, it's sometimes a mirror. The people she loves most reflect her back to herself, revealing both her light and her flaws. Mike's devotion teaches her faith. Hopper's love teaches her patience. Max's friendship teaches her grief. Each bond breaks and heals her, reshaping her into something more resilient than science could ever design, a soul that grows. The tragedy of Brenner's vision is that he saw power as something static, something to be owned. Eleven's journey teaches the opposite. True power is dynamic, alive, unpredictable. It breathes with every heartbreak, expands with every act of kindness, and burns brightest when shared. In a world obsessed with proving superiority, she becomes the embodiment of connection. Her mind can bend metal, but her love can bend fate. And that makes her unstoppable, not because she can destroy, but because she refuses to stop believing. The girl who once lived behind glass now walks into open air, her heart unguarded, her friends beside her. Science may have made her extraordinary, but love made her human. And that, more than any experiment, is the miracle the world needs to understand. Chapter 10. The Light Beyond the Lab. If you watch closely, every shot of 11 standing against the darkness is about more than monsters. It's about the courage to stay soft in a world that tried to harden you. When she lifts her hand and the air ripples, it's not a display of dominance. It's the visual language of emotion too powerful for words. Each gesture, each scream, each tear is a declaration that love will not be silenced by science. Her story is the story of every person who's ever been told to suppress their feelings in order to survive. Every woman who's been punished for caring too deeply. Every child who's been taught to hide their heart to appear strong. 11 speaks for them. Her power is a metaphor for what happens when you finally let yourself feel everything you were told to bury. And so the girl who began as an experiment becomes something mythic, a living contradiction that defies logic. She is both weapon and healer, both fury and grace. She is proof that strength built from love is the only kind that lasts. As she stands before the horizon, wind threading through her hair, we realize that her real victory isn't the monsters she's defeated, it's the person she's become. 11 is no longer science's secret. She's humanity's answer, a reminder that the heart, when unbroken by cruelty, can change the fabric of the universe. Because in the end, love is not the opposite of power, it is the source of it. And for 11, the girl who once could only destroy, it has become the very